Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Zombicide game. This is Marvel Zombies X-Men Resistance. So this is a secondary core set to the Marvel Zombies campaign, which technically makes the third one. So they have the regular Marvel Zombies, which I've done unboxings for. You can check that out, where you played as the zombies fighting against living characters trying to devour them. What was a neat mechanic as they made for this game was the ability to also then play as the regular heroes per like traditional Zombicide, where you play as one of the superheroes, so you're a little bit more powerful than regular Zombicide characters, but you get to play as living versions fighting the zombies. And then they had the third set was Heroes Resistance, which was the retail version that lets you play as the heroes. So it gave you enough cards to at least start it, but it was kind of a lighter version of the game that had like slightly different spawn cards and stuff. And I'll do a comparison to that in a different video. But it's really cool. So this gives you the ability then to take any of either the regular Marvel Zombies core set or any of the expansions. Every character that has a hero form will also have the ability to play against them as if you're playing either play as a hero or a zombie, or fight against them. So you have cards for both characters. So this is really cool. It gives you all the extra tokens, all that stuff to play as the full hero mode. So if you're not familiar if you haven't watched the regular Marvel Zombies, I'm going to do just a quick kind of overview of what is different from this versus traditional Zombicide. I'm not going to get in every nuanced little detail. I do want to go over the base thing. So in this game, you get to play as X-Men Resistance. You have living X-Men characters. You have X-Men zombies. You have a bunch of bystanders you're going to get. You have your tiles, as well as you have your zombies. So here you have your traditional zombies, which are going to be multiple man, which work like any of your walkers from previous Zombicide games. Your Reavers, who are brutes, and your runners, which are Hellfire soldiers. For all intents and purposes, they're treated as walkers, runners, and brutes. So you could mix and match the models with other games. If you don't want to fight against X-Men villains, you could mix and match them with other ones. They're still called walkers, runners, and brutes in the game. Then we have a bunch of different cards, all the components and stuff, so all the hero stuff, as well as, again, stuff you can play as zombie mode. What's also really fun is it being like it's another core set. We get full plastic dashboards, new bases, but they're different colors than the zombie ones. So that way you have just some mixing and matching you can do. Yeah, so I'm not going to go through every single little thing, but just look at some of the big differences from traditional Zombicide into this one. So a couple of different things is we're going to have some different decks of cards, as well as how the characters actually work. The basics are pretty much the same. Your zones, you have different zones that are located by big borders. Each zone has different interior zones in there. So larger zones, smaller zones. So large zones consisting of 4 small zones, 1 big zone. And then when you enter into a brand new zone, that's when you summon zombies and stuff in there. Line of sight works the same as traditional Zombicide games. Like Mystique can see all the way down out of a building. She can see all the way down, and same with Wolverine. They can see each other. Rogue here can see into the next room, but she can't see out of the next room. So you can see one room over, but you can't see out of another room. The same way Magneto can see into the next building, but you can't see out. So if you're looking outside of a building, once you get to the outdoors, you can see all the way across. But when you're in a building, you can't see more than one room in the next direction. And you can't ever see diagonal or through doors, stuff like that. And this is a little bit more showing some of that. So like Colossus can see into the hallway here. Wolverine can see from this elevator into the hallway, but you can't see into the next room. Very simple. Now like this is where it gets so tricky when you get these larger rooms where Storm can see this direction, she jumps down, but she can't see diagonal. Like, makes sense, Magneto can't see this way because there's a wall, but you can't even see diagonal in a big room. And the idea is you have to take this into context of how big actually a character would be in these rooms. So these are little chairs. So they're only like, you're asking to see like a lot farther than maybe they could. Movement's the same way. Move wherever you can see. There's a special fountain in here. You can't move through the fountain. You have to walk around it. But you can see over it. So that'll affect what you can target or other things. So one brand new concept for the X-Men Resistance are levels. This is something regular Zombicide games have never had that I can recall of. So we have an upper floor, a ground floor, and an underground. So the ground floor is one side of the tiles, and then the upper floor and underground are the flip side. And they work fairly simple. It's basically, if there are no zombies on the floor, there's no your hero character, your playing character, if there's no one on that floor, the enemies don't activate. So since there's no one up here on the upper floor, Sabretooth and this Reaver or Brute do not activate. They don't move, you don't spawn anything else, because all the heroes are on this floor. So moving from floor to floor can keep you alive a little bit. There's also stairways you can use. So you can take stairs. Once you move into the stairway, you can go ahead and freely move to the next area. It doesn't cost anything extra to go from the stair to the next area. They also add an elevator. So now elevators do cost points to use them. So you move one space to move onto an elevator, or for free you can move the elevator to your floor if it's on a different floor. But one to move on there, and then one character has to spend action to move all characters on the elevator to another floor. So it's pretty cool. So that's just the difference in how the board and stuff is set up. So here are a couple of the big differences in the characters versus traditional Zombicide. So we still have our health, which you have. Most characters have 3 health. But now we have our skill tree, which you usually have in Zombicide. You start with a blue skill. As you gain experience points, you gain your yellows, then you gain your orange, and your reds. So basically, the longer the game goes and the more threats you have, you gain better skills. Your characters become more prepared. But in traditional Zombicide, you usually have options. In orange, you usually have 2 options. In red, you have 3 options. The Marvel characters don't get that. They just get specific abilities tailored towards each character. So it does give them a little less ability to choose how they want their character to play, but it also gives them more unique abilities instead of just like +1 to die roll or plus 1 damage. You actually get specific abilities. The other big thing is there are no equipment cards in the game, so you're not hunting down trying to find a baseball bat or a shotgun or something better than what you have. Every character just has their starting ability. So again, this will limit to what you do. So if you're playing Wolverine, know that you're playing a melee character. Versus if you pick Cyclops, you're playing a ranged character. Whereas traditional Zombicides, you could have a character's abilities be tailored towards melee or range, but you could pick a weapon, so you could opt to do whatever you need to do in that situation. So that does make it a little bit different. The third big thing is this power track on the side. So let's go read that quick. Superheroes are able to harness incredible powers from within themselves. It allows them to perform amazing feats. A superhero's power increases at the start of every round and can be further increased with power-up actions. It's meant to do special effects or to add extra dice to attacks. So there's some abilities they're going to ask you to spend it, such as like Wolverine's Lash Out, or you can actually just spend them to gain extra dice to do more damage. So it's kind of neat because rather than hoping to unlock ability that lets you roll more dice, you just have the option of at least every turn rolling 1 extra dice. Yeah, so there's a little bit more. There's your experience bar showing off some of that stuff. Zombies work the same way. Again, walkers, depending on what level you are, they will have various different ones that are spawned. Enemies work pretty much the same way. So we have walkers who have 1 action, 1 toughness, give you 1 reward. They're slow, but there's plenty of them. The brutes, which are bigger, have 1 action, one reward, but they have 2 toughness. They're thicker, they're going to be harder to take out. The runners are 2 actions, 1 toughness, 1 reward. So they have the option to do 2 things. So a zombie will always move If they can move, attack if they can attack. If they cannot attack, they will then move. So they'll try to attack you. If they can't, then they'll move towards you. A runner could potentially move, attack, or attack. So it just depends. So now another big difference here are zombie heroes. So instead of having your traditional abominations, which are kind of like mindless, nameless brutes, well, not brutes, I guess they're abominations. Bigger characters that have like, or it was either just the abomination or it was like spiked abomination or stinger abomination. You actually get to fight against other heroes and villains, which is really cool. So a couple of neat things is they each have 2 actions. They have different toughness values, so they'll be listed on their cards. Instead of always having the same amount, they'll have an XP reward. So this is a huge difference in how the game will play, because since they have various toughnesses, usually 3, some have 2, but most of them have 3 or higher. You have to be able to do all that damage in one shot. So that's where rolling them extra dice, using your special power traits, and we'll see some other cards that help benefit that, is really a necessity to be able to do to take these guys out. And they gain XP versus their health. So it just makes them all a little bit more unique characters instead of it just being, oh, I summon this big guy, and then also the one, with the traditional zombie side, you take out some of the bigger guys. You had to find specific weapons, and some characters just, unless they got like the best weapon in the game, there was no way they could ever produce enough damage to do it. And here, everyone technically has options. You can save up to 4 power, which will let you roll 4 extra dice. So if you take enough time to do it, you can at least roll 4 extra dice. It should give you a pretty good fighting chance with just about any attack. So that's pretty cool as well. Yeah, so they definitely make the game a little bit more interesting. They get shuffled in there, you're going to get a lot more. Also, most zombie side games, you get like 1 abomination, maybe 2 to 3 if you're lucky. This gives you 5. And then every expansion you buy, like if you have the other core set of Marvel Zombies, all of these zombies you can play as that can now be added into against heroes, and vice versa. So like every figure basically doubles as a playable character or the abomination class, which is really cool. Alright. Alright, so then on our turn we have a couple of different things we can do. You obviously start with 3 points just like usual. You can move, you can open doors or windows. There are windows in this particular game. But the new one is gaining a trait. So your trait cards, which we will look over in the next video, this one we're just going to kind of go through the rule book, work very similar to, I would say, like the equipment of traditional zombie side games. So the players drop on the top of the hero deck and place one of it in 2 heroic trait slots. A superhero can only perform a single gain trait once per action. They only have up to 2 at a time, so you have 2 slots for different abilities. You can spend them. If you ever gain another one, you have to discard one. But they kind of work, I say like equipment, because you're spending an action to search for a trait, which is kind of like searching for a weapon or an item in the old zombie side game, except you can do it anywhere, and then you hang on to them, and they're typically one-time use. Use them, and then they go away. But they gain you an extra bonus. You're going to be kind of recycling them pretty quick. But this can also be where you can gain a bunch of extra power, or extra attacks, or change up your strategy a little bit, depending on how you're playing. So other things we can, of course, do is attack, rescue bystanders, interact with objects, and power up. Power up is the other big one here. So at the beginning of your turn, you automatically gain 1 power. You can only have 4 and can't gain any more. Some skills and traits require you to spend them, so you want to keep gaining them more and more often. So you have the ability to use your attacks as best as you can. But you may use a power-up action during your turn to increase it by an extra 2. And this can be done more than once per turn. So you could have 3 power, attack, use all 3 of them, then do a power-up to boot on your second action to get back up to 2, then use your third action to attack again by spending more power. So you get some different options there. So that's pretty cool there. Bystanders are also, they're not necessarily new to Zombicide, but these ones work very differently. So traditional, when you find they've had bystanders, or I'd say like a lot of times they're companions in older Zombicide games, the modern stuff. You would rescue them. They might have either you have to have them follow you along the map to do stuff, or they would have like a specific ability or trait they would give you. And these kind of fall more into that side. So a superhero might have one bystander card at any time. Should they rescue another bystander, they should play gold card, the new one, and discard it. When a superhero rescues a bystander, they fill their power meter to its maximum. Say, hey, you're doing something great, so you get a boost up. Rescuing bystanders does not award any experience, but missions might modify this. So, unlike hero traits, bystander cards are typically not discarded upon use, but instead offer a permanent ability. A superhero would suffer wounds and may discard one bystander. So you can throw a bystander in front of a zombie to take a hit for you, but if you do, you're going to have a penalty for it. So if you watch the original Zombicide where you played as zombies, they had traits as well. They also had stuff with bystanders, but their things they were buying on them to feast on them later. So they gain the ability by eating them, where heroes gain them by rescuing them. It functionally works the exact same way, just more or less the difference of what it does. Alright, so then enemies all work the same way. They attack if they can attack, they move if they can move. Bystanders are eliminated if they receive one wound. This is a heavy failure. Superheroes carry bystander devour, which we'll see a little bit later. A superhero, the bystander, may discard, but also does the bystander effects. So here's just showing how the runners will activate. Like Sabretooth here will move towards Mystique because she's closest, even though she can see 2 other people. This one will move towards Magneto, even though Colossus is physically closer. He can't see it through a wall. Nobody can see Rogue, so they leave her alone. And then these guys will go towards Magneto. They can see him straight across. You just have to divvy him up. Here's a new mechanic for this game, breaking through windows. Unlike doors, enemies are able to break through windows to get to where they want to go. If an enemy has no line of sight to a superhero, they trace their path through the closest target as if all windows were open. So if they can normally see someone, they'll just go after them. Like that guy's out in the open, they'll walk over. So they could go 2 to get to Magneto. But they can't see Magneto because there's a wall there. So they're going to go after Storm because there's a window. So that's treated as if that window was now open. And they're just going to break through that window to go after them. So it's kind of a fun little extra mechanic that they added in this game. What happens is they have to spend all their actions to break through. So even if there's like 5 zombies, they all collectively spend 1 action point. If they're a runner or a hero that has 2 actions, you just spend their second action. But yeah, it kind of works as a neat little extra thing. Then, of course, we have spawn tokens. We have extra cards we get in the decks. Besides just spawning, just give the characters a little bit more extra things. When you enter a building, you spawn. So closed doors create separation between buildings. Whenever you open up a building, any doorway, any building that has an open door to it, any zone, is you automatically summon. You start generally left to right, wherever there's an exclamation point. So 1, 2, and 3 on that action. Each one you draw a card. Depending on the level of the highest level character, you summon 4, 5, or 1s for each one. Then go to the next one, then go to the third one. Yep, so that's pretty cool. Combat, melee, ranged, rolling dice. So there's a big difference in targeting priorities. This is one thing that changed about Marvel Zombies versus the other one. Is when you target a zone, you select it. You can use ranged attacks to target another zone, even if there are enemies in your zone. That doesn't matter. They don't get free hits or anything. Roll a dice and assign hits. So it says, while attacking, whether in melee or range, must be assigned in order. So the zombie heroes, so the superheroes have to be attacked first. Then you attack brutes, then walkers, then runners. It's basically the biggest guys first, the biggest threats, into the big and slow. Like brutes are big, slow. Walkers are just slow. Runners are the fastest. So this is very different because in most zombie side games, ranged attacks have to follow priority. Melee attacks you got to choose. Now it's always you have to attack in that order no matter what. I think they did this just to kind of simplify it. Plus, your superheroes are a little bit more powerful than a guy carrying a baseball bat, so they're going to probably do a little bit more damage. Also, though, there's no friendly fire anymore. So if you do shoot into a zone, you don't have to worry about rolling misses and hitting guys. So it objectively makes ranged attacks a little bit better because you can shoot from a zone. You don't get the bonus of getting to, like, prioritize anyhow. Unless you have an ability that does that. But you don't have to worry about accidentally hitting one of your teammates. It makes sense to be as a superhero is going to have better aim than, Wendy from the diner who picked up a shotgun, right? Enemies are only listed if they can assign enough hits and equal their toughness during a single attack. So hits are not rolled over. So Magneto performs a range attack, uses shrapnel, 3 dice for accuracy. So he rolls a 5, a 6, and a 4 for his first action, scoring 3 hits. While prior hits 2 eliminate 1 brute, the last hit just bounces off. Then his second attack, he does 2 more, gets 2 hits, eliminates the brute. Runner, stays there. So it's like each attack you can take out. So if you do 5 damage, you can do 5 damage to characters in there, but it's going to go top down. So if there's a brute that takes 2 hits, that's 2 of the 5. And then you could take out 3 more points. And then power, we kind of talked about, just does various other things you can use for traits and spending stuff. Bystanders, we did kind of mention them before, but we'll kind of go over them a little bit more here. So bystander and danger. When enemy activates, they treat bystanders as potential targets. Like superheroes, if bystanders are closest target, they'll move towards it. If it's in a zone, they will attack. If a bystander or superhero are equally eligible targets, the player decides the enemy first. So that's up to you on which way you want to go. Typically, most gamers usually play the worst case scenario. But that might be the difference between being like, if they get eliminated, the game's over, and if not, then you might just choose not to. Some of them have a little fist symbol on their card, like we see in Mariko there. So they're combat bystanders. So each time a combat bystander suffers a wound, they roll 1 die. On a 5+, they prevent that wound, so they can defend themselves. These are essentially characters that are trained or could be considered superheroes or supervillains. They just didn't, in the game-wise, they didn't make enough to be able to actually be a full character. A bystander eliminated one wound. Superheroes rescue a bystander. They discard. We went through all this. Lots of them we just repeated. So bystanders are devoured. If a bystander is eliminated, they're removed from the board and their card is discarded. This is a heavy blow for all the superheroes, as they have failed their primary purpose of protecting an innocent. Each bystander gets eliminated. It immediately triggers both of these effects. All heroes lose 1 power if they have any and must discard 1 trait. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely isn't good to lose abilities. Activating bystanders. During enemy phase, bystanders attempt to flee the zombie hordes and reach the superheroes in order to be rescued. At the end of the activate enemy step, but before spawning, any bystanders on the board are activated. They move 1 zone towards the closest zone with a superhero. If a bystander has more than 1, you choose the same one. If there are enemies in their zone or adjacent zone, they would move into bystander that does not move. Another cool thing this game added was the interactive objects. So in the core zombie side, we saw the Avengers symbol, the A. Now we got the Sentinel hand. So basically, if this is on the board, you can interact with it by firing off a ranged attack as a special attack, as a card for it too. Each successful guy scores 2 hits. The bonus dice gained by spending energy not apply. Hits ignored may not be spent. After those spent hands, you may then use it to throw it. And then once you throw it, it's destroyed. So basically, it gets 2 uses out of it. Which is very cool, because they do use it in some of the missions. Alright. I'm not going to go over all the missions, but we do have a bunch of hero mode missions, which are just going to say what tiles we use. So here we have your setup for some of our tiles. What objectives you have to do, special rules, how the tiles are laid out, different tokens you'll need. And then, of course, we jump into the bigger modes, bigger maps. So here's one where it'll have the upstairs and the underground. You're traversing between those. And then we have just the outside. And then we have even like, you can do a bigger one where it's some of the maps, some of the upstairs, which is really cool. This is probably one of my favorite missions. So I just want to look at this one really quick. The Unstoppable Juggernaut. So I love this as a concept as opposed to always just being like, find objective A and then escape. This one, what you have to do is you have to defeat Juggernaut, but you have to find the 5 objectives first, and you have to rescue things. It says, take the blue and green objectives, which could be in any of the spots, and rescue Bolivar Trask. Then eliminate Juggernaut permanently. So you have to find, so I think Bolivar Trask, if I remember, he starts in one of the areas. He could be in any of the areas. I think he might start one of these bottom ones. But yeah, you have to find him, so you have to hunt down all the areas looking for him while trying not to have the Juggernaut kill you, not have other zombies spawning after you as well. But then eventually when you find him, then you have to get back to the Sentinel Hand and blast him. So it's kind of cool. It says Juggernaut can only be eliminated with the Sentinel Hand. Each time a Juggernaut would be eliminated, lay him down next to his game piece instead. At the end of the next enemy phase, he stands back up. So if you do defeat him, he gets basically stunned for a turn. He gets back up and he gets to start again. So you can keep continually defeating him, but that might be kind of a waste of your resources. Potentially, might be worth it to get everyone away. But yeah, it's kind of a neat little idea. So you can't just, oh, I hit him and he's done. And then you go all this other stuff, and eventually, once possessing the blue and green tokens, as well as Bolivar Trask, same zone as the Sentinel Hand becomes charged. So in one action to move it along with them. So you have to drag it to wherever you need to be and then shoot Juggernaut. So that's really a cool idea. It's just a concept of having a villain permanently out that you have to be taking care of, instead of having like random spawned heroes and stuff like that. Then we do have some zombie modes as well, which is really fun. So that way, if you already had the other version, you could go ahead and jump in and play some that are themed with these new tiles that we're going to get. The same idea. And then they have one that's a very similar style for the zombies, but instead of Juggernaut, you have a bunch of shield agents that start out, and you have some different options there as well. Yeah, so that's the basic differences between the two things. So, alright, this is part 1 of Marvel Zombies X-Men Resistance. Come back, check out part 2. We're going to start going through the boards, the tokens. We'll look at all that stuff. We'll look at some of the various cards. And then we'll probably do a part 3 where we go through the rest of the miniatures. Alright, see you guys there. Bye.